much better. Except like GameCube has notches. That's pretty much it. I hate the Z button. I can't do I can't press two jump buttons and special to do my like short hop fireball real easily. I have to do like, because Y and B, I've special map to B on the GameCube controller, and Y and Z, a shoulder button for jump.
Yeah, what is your
so so on the Pro controller I can press Y, X, and R real easily to do that. But on the GameCube controller, B is too far away, so it's like,
yeah,
I can't press it all with my thumb. I have to like claw. I would have to like claw the Y button, and then press Z with my middle finger. But it's like, that's not a way I would hold the controller normally. So I have to like swap back and forth, and that's bad. I have to swap positions like that. Even like moving your like having to move your thumb back and forth from the stick to the buttons.
Mic on.
Like you want to try to limit that when you can.
Yeah, there's all kinds of
That's less of a deal. But
yeah. The you know, having played Smash for a really long time and watching a bunch of people, what do I say, different levels, learning different things and teaching me different things along the years, I just thought I'd try to explain something that I just more recently kind of learned how to explain clearly. And I did the whole footsies thing, right? And the footsies lessons were about getting at the heart of what fighting games are. And by doing that, now I can kind of put people into roughly 3 big buckets to kind of describe how they're approaching the game. And a lot of people who come from single player games, they just kind of just do the thing that comes naturally to them over and over and most often. And you know, the first lesson they learn is that competitive games and multiplayer games are a lot more complicated. So like you can't just get what you want and your opponent's equally as powerful as you and stuff like that. So from that point, there's like 2 major camps for people who like to play Smash. And there are people who treat the game more like a strategy game, and they try to explore a whole bunch of different combinations, and they try to find the most optimal way to do whatever they're trying to do. So if it's like a back air, they're going to try to find the safest way to do that. And if it's like a grab, they're going to try to find the safest way to do that. And they're just pretty much like collecting a small set of go-to strategies that they'll do that they consider to be the safest, right? And that search is very expensive, right? There's lots of moves, there's lots of matchups, there's lots of stages, but they'll spend a lot of their time playing the game, exploring those things, and then slowly like taking the 7 or so things they do and trying to pick the best one, right? That's
that kind of like exploring all the characters before picking one.
Well, those people just need to pick a character. Like, but after you pick your character and you're like, cool, I play Pikachu. Like, how does Pikachu deal with this? How does Pikachu deal with that? I'm losing to this matchup. What do I do? And they just slowly try to collect what to do given those different situations for their one character. So it's less so about picking a character, more just like how do they approach learning the game. They recognize a bunch of scenarios and try to their best to remember like which thing to do. A lot of times they talk about like, oh, this is like the best option, this is optimal, and they'll try to get as many of those as possible. But then there's a whole other set, which is the people who sometimes they describe themselves as playing by feel or playing by instinct, but essentially at the core of a fighting game, it's all just kind of like a rock, paper, scissors triangle, right? There is no one best move, because if your opponent can tell what you're going to do, there's counters that exist for every single possibility. So rather than trying to like optimize something that can't be optimized, some players focus entirely on just staying loose and getting a feel for what their opponent's going to do. And if they get a good idea of what their opponent's going to do, they can pretty much pick simple options to win, neutral or whatever, over and over, and they do really well with that. So the thing that I see the least often when people are trying to improve in Smash is that second one, which is jumping.
You said there was a third, right?
The first one is just people treat it like a single player game, and they're not quite aware that this is much more complicated.
Okay.
And like, there's a lot more to study. So a lot of those people learn that lesson right off the bat. But
wait, so which one of the three was the least?
The one that the people who play their opponent rather than playing the game, essentially.
Okay.
So like.
So actually learning neutral.
Yeah. So yeah, like the core of a fighting game is really just this. It can be roughly described as a triangle between grab, attack, and block. So they're trying their hardest to do things in a way that influence their opponent to be more and more predictable, and more predictable in a way that hopefully they have a counter for. So the strategy way versus that way are the two major ways to improve at a fighting game. Let me switch this stream to this. You can see. Can you see the diagram?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so the strategies, the approach is kind of what you see on the outside of this diagram, taking every attack and figuring out, well, what happens if they do this? Well, you can do this. Well, what happens if they do that? Well, you can do this, this, or this, and pretty much internalizing the entire sort of systemic possibility space of the game in terms of moves and counter moves.
Is that, so it's very flowcharty.
So flowchart is, it's the biggest possible flowchart you can go for. So like you can imagine somebody has a flowchart of just like.
Alright, sorry, I can't read. I can't like read the whole diagram.
Yeah.
Like at a glance, is a lot of that connected, or is it a lot of possibilities with like one or two branches?
So like given this attack, like kicking, these are the main strategies to use for kicking, and then the arrows are connecting to resulting things that can happen. So getting close and attempting to kick your opponent is like a very basic approach, and from there your opponent can do this, or this, right? And these three result in a KO against you, so this may not be your best strategy.
Oh, is this like a one-hit KO?
Pretty much. There are hits that don't kill you in one hit, but for the most part you're gonna die with one good touch, no matter what.
Okay.
So that's simple.
I didn't try the Footsies game.
No,
is that free?
Yeah, it's free on mobile. So and it's online play on mobile too for free. So you can just download it.
Okay, I thought I saw it on. Was it not on Steam?
It's on. That's the truest version because you can customize your hat, but that one's like a few bucks.
Oh. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So a lot of people, what's interesting with Footsies is I see a lot of people play this game. There's only so many attacks and so many things they can do. And still, a lot of people don't have this approach at all of figuring out what can happen from the things that they do. They pretty much are like that first type of player I told you about. They have one play style. They're like, cool, I'm going to do this over and over. And they may try to adjust it, but pretty much they're operating in one mode, like do the thing that I like doing. And those are the players in Footsies that fall the easiest, right? They don't last very long. Other players recognize the different strategy space. And they try to very flexibly like push it in one direction or another. But I've only met one other player that has extensive knowledge of the strategy space that matches this, right? Only one other player like knew the game inside and out enough to know all the way deep into these branches what the advantages and disadvantages are at every jump. So that player was
one player for Footsies.
Yeah, one player for Footsies.
Okay.
From my research. He knew everything. I was like, oh, what about this, and this? He's like, yeah, this. I'm like, oh, what about this? And he's like, yeah, I know that too. I'm like, man.
Where do you find this guy?
We were on the Footsies forum. So the only people that play Footsies are hopefully on that Discord, not forum. But yeah, he was one of the better players, one of the best players. So it's
modern form. Gotcha.
But then a lot of other players will play.
Yeah. So let me just make my input. Like,
Yeah, go ahead.
I would never want to do that for Smash Ultimate in particular, or really like. I mean, like Melee has like 10 characters you really need to know, something like that. Other games have less characters or less. I mean, Footsie's already has like all this stuff for just like 3 moves or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Is it just 3 moves? Like
roughly, you have a knee, a kick,
you have a jump,
and no jump. You have a knee, kick, special. Uppercut's really rare to use. You have block. You can parry and walk forward, and then you have the super secret move called Demon or Secret. But yeah, mostly just 4.
Oh, how like Okay, never mind. Okay, yeah. So the move choices are really small in this.
Yeah.
And then you go to Smash Ultimate, and it's like 80x, like 16x, like because there's like 80 characters, and then
Yeah.
everyone has like all their moves. I don't know, 16, 20ish.
Yeah.
So all your normals, grounded, aerial, all your specials. Some specials work different in the air. Grab throws. Grabs in the air sometimes. And just like
Yeah.
yeah, knockback directions, like know where to attack or whatever.
Yeah, so like you
Yeah,
said,
so like I would never want to go full in that approach for that.
so what makes you what is your biggest sort of worry or concern when you say you don't want to do that kind of approach?
Just it would be so time consuming. Maybe I just don't want to put the time in. I mean, I'm not trying to get like pro level.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Everyone.
I was really just trying to like cram out some offline play the other day because I was going to the one-off tournament yesterday. Like I hadn't gone to Xanadu since January.
Oh, cool, Xanadu.
So yeah, it's the Xanadu tournament. It's stacked. Even for Arcadian. It was the Arcadian tournament, so it was no ranked players or PR or whatever. I don't know how far. I don't know. So like top. I think anyone like top 16 ranked or something at any point can't participate. But
yeah. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, Arcadian.
But even still, it was like everyone's still pretty good.
Yeah.
Because they're going to a live tournament. They're not just like Wi-Fi warrior or whatever, and not even.
Yeah.
Not putting in as much effort.
Yeah, so it's interesting. There's for looking at the approach to playing the game like this, there's a definite correlation between putting more time in and getting deeper branches, right? You can imagine someone who puts a ton of time in knows a bunch about every character and every matchup and every stage, and someone who doesn't put as much time would have blank things all in those areas. That's a really clear and interesting way to see like how some players get advantages over the others. They just already know it. They already know the strategy. They've already experienced it or practiced it, and it comes much more naturally to them because they've thought about it before. So that resistance you have is one that everybody feels, right? Like nobody has infinite time, and everyone needs to try to make the most of their time. So some players play the opponent rather than the game, and they focus on doing things that are about conditioning and getting their opponent to do things that they know how to beat and simplifying the game in that sense. And those players don't necessarily know all the combos and they don't know how to do X, Y, and Z, but they do really well because they're playing the core of the game, right? So that exercise I showed you with putting the computer on attack and trying to get your attacks in, it's a really good way to kind of it's a really good way to work in attacks into your game, but also to be a little self-reflective and figure out what risks you're taking and why you're taking them. So you started with jab, and in a lot of cases, jab is not too easy to come by, or not too easy to land because other characters have a lot more range and everything. But what's interesting is there was many situations where you could have like guaranteed 100% gotten a jab off, but you chose to like jump out of shield back air, and you chose other options that were much more sort of familiar to you. And the exercise tries to get people to stop and say every move that you make is important, and you either are doing a move to the best of your ability to not get hit and hit the opponent, or you're taking a risk, like a potentially unnecessary risk. And I think by taking this exercise seriously, trying to get absolutely 0 damage but to land 10 jabs on the opponent, it really makes you play the game differently, because you absolutely can't put yourself into certain situations where, even if it's a 30% chance you get hit, you can't afford it, right? And that was just sort of a basic exercise to get you to think, oh, if my opponent and what they do is absolutely the most important thing I got to pay attention to, how does that change my game and how does that change my strategy? So when I saw you doing the exercise, I could tell that you were playing differently. You shifted into like a different mindset. You were more patient. You picked your moments, and I could see you picking your moments. You said, this one isn't good. This one is good. This one is kind of good, but I'm going to go for it. I could tell that's what's happening with your body language through the character on the screen. And in a lot of
ways, like doing jab only, or like mixing it in?
Just when you were picking your moments to hopefully get the jabs in. And trying to get the highest score in those games, right? Like taking as little damage as possible. When you were doing the drill, I could tell your thinking process was different. And a lot of times when I've done these drills for people, they're like, "Yeah, I could see them changing. I could see them adapting and thinking better." And then they go, "Well, yeah, this is just a drill. Like real tournament matches are different." And I'm like, "Are they?" Right? Like your opponent is probably going to do only a handful of things anyway, right? And if you can recognize what those handful of things are faster, you've got an advantage. And if you can get better practice at recognizing situations and knowing when you can guaranteed get damage and when you can't, you can play safer. And when you do that, you move differently. And when you move differently, everything starts to click. That was the idea, at least, with the drills and the training.
Yeah, I mean, I like the drill.
Yeah.
I thought it helped me. So I did the jab and back air, because back air is such like important move to just get practice with combos, and it's good in neutral. It's good for KOs.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the all around. Might be Mario's best move, like all around. That maybe. Well. And then, if I were to pick another move to do the drill like next, it would be probably up smash.
That's a good one.
Or one of the smash moves.
Yeah, definitely. Let me do this. Cool. You probably can't see it. But
I mean, like during a match, I try to like adjust my play a little bit to like not running the same stuff over and over again too. Like I try to be adaptive.
I'll switch this screen. So to kind of pull it all together, the way that I was watching you play and just kind of observing, and it made me think about how you played enLIGHTen, which is really interesting. I think you, more than either all players or most players, really honed in on a sort of a strategy where you would find normalize, and it didn't matter how you found normalize. You could be as sort of as fast or as redundant as you wanted, but when you found normalize, there's when you got your you could recognize it and then solve any puzzle from that position. And a lot of your strategies involve getting to normalize. So let me just type it.
That's the one with like the 2 dots. Yeah.
And what's interesting is more so than other players, unlike other players, a lot more players tried to unlock every single puzzle challenge, and then they tried to perfect and blind them, and then they worked hard at finding these connections between them so that they could, navigate better horizontally. But comparatively, let me do show lines. Compared to most players, you have fewer lines. So you were really, from the beginning, honing the strategy that you figured could take you all the way. And it did, right? You were very successful with your approach. I just find it really interesting that the way that you play this game mirrors pretty directly what I see in how you're playing Smash Brothers. And if I took away your ability to find normalize, like if I made a mode that says every time you find normalize, you lose. You lose, just flat out. You would basically have no gameplay. And I
find normalize 2.0.
Yeah, then you'd find the next one, right? And you would try to build like a little bit of a strategy around avoiding getting the game over. And then if I took that away, you would build just a little bit of a strategy to avoid that. But I think that very instinct is what a lot of players do to play more single player games and stuff, because you don't need to deep dive into a game to be a single player game. The whole point is just beating it like once or whatever and moving on. So I think it's interesting. Right here in enLIGHTen, you didn't go the strategy route. You weren't concerned with exploring every possibility, and you weren't even concerned with exploring more possibilities within the core, like the closer to the center. And you also weren't as interested at forms.
I did have like connections like closer to the. I remember at least having a lot of connections closer to the middle.
Yeah.
Maybe later on when I had to like go back. So it may have been later on I ended up making more connections to like improve and be able to do the other side challenge, the daily challenges.
Yeah, it's that whole approach where you find something that works. And
then... are you on my account?
Yeah.
Is that my account?
Yeah, this is your account. Yeah. Welcome, NFTJ. That whole approach, even that sort of mentality of like, oh, cool, like I'll find this thing that works, and then when it doesn't work, I will do a little bit of research or a little bit of expansion in order to get a couple of tricks to make it work again, and then I'm going to go back to what I know. That's a very particular approach that I think it was worth talking about. It's worth pointing out, because now you can consider what the two other major ways to go about it would be. And just looking at these stats. Puzzle blind.
So what did more people do? They went around each ring and then blinded it?
Yeah, a lot of people saw the structure of the puzzle game and said, hey, I think I at least want to uncover all of them. So they worked really hard to get to the outermost ring, which is layer 15. You got there. And then they worked harder at perfecting all of them to get to that ring. And then they worked even harder to blind all of them to get out to the ring. And those are the people that recognize a design space or a strategy space. And they realize just exploring it all is going to give them a lot more flexibility. And a lot of players went that route, even if they didn't quite get 100%. And then there was a handful of players that went the heuristical route, where all they would focus on is finding sort of a series of steps that they could do to reduce every puzzle to something simpler and then solve the simple puzzle. And they were working on sort of a universal algorithm to solve any puzzle in order to improve their chances. And you can see how all three of those approaches are represented. The strategy exploration, I'm going to stick with what I know and make small adjustments, and then the whole, like, let's just learn as little as possible, but make that approach as flexible as possible.
So I know earlier on I went, like, I had a really skinny like chain out to layer 15, but that was my curiosity to like figure out, okay, how many, like, what's the maximum steps? Like how far are these rings gonna go out? And then I just like went deep that way, and then I filled in.
Yeah.
end up filling out from there.
Yeah, you definitely have a as you should a mixed approach. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. I think if you kind of consider the daily challenges, the first one was just random. So like a situation that you haven't seen before, how do you go about solving it? And the second one was, you know, convert something that looks unfamiliar into something familiar. So that's your ability to kind of go from a random state or an uncontrolled state to one you can control. The third one was, you know, targeting your weak side. So like, what are the things you've done the least do you remember, and how are you upkeeping like this big body of knowledge that you're collecting? The fourth one was creating patterns from scratch. So this really tests if you can take knowledge that you have and apply it in a very specific way. You know, flexible control over your knowledge. And his fifth one was when you see a pattern and it asks you to convert it into another pattern, right? And there's different ways to go about doing this, but the simplest way to do it is to understand each, like what each takes, and then merge those two solutions in your brain, right? Oop. So I feel like each of these daily challenges has a direct analog to Smash, right? And that drill I had you do where you were to figure out if you could land, you know, 10 hits of a jab on your opponent without getting hurt is very close to daily challenge 2 and 5. You know your jab, you've already explored it, and then you know your opponent's move, but the difficult thing is how do I take what they're giving me and convert it into something that I 100% know I can safely apply, and then you know, get the damage that I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, you know, just having observed this whole time and just kind of watching and thinking about it all, I just thought it was interesting how what I see you do in a completely unrelated game is kind of mirroring what I've seen you do in this tiny puzzle game.
Was it similar to enLIGHTen?
Yeah. Yeah, that's and it just kind of makes me think, because, you know, I've had a lot of success in Smash, and I've also had a lot of not success, right? I've done really well in some games and really not well at all in others. And when I think back on it, I'm like, well, what did I do different? What happened, right? Is it that I got old? Is it that everyone around me got better? And searching for an answer to those things really led me on this long journey to kind of understand, oh, there are certain approaches that I took in each different game, and some approaches are better than others, and some I took more seriously than others, and that gave me the results that I now understand, right? So that was mostly what I wanted to share with you. I was just really curious. I thought it was really interesting. Let me see. And I feel like it's just worth talking about, because when I was working with kids in the Smash Dojo, they would just be throwing out attacks all the time, just throwing out attacks because they see top players do it, but they had no idea why. And the only way you can get why is if you explore your own strategy space for yourself. And then they would ignore their opponent almost entirely just to try to hit them with their moves. And the only way to get better at that is to learn how to listen and influence and kind of have a conversation with your opponent. And those were two huge pieces that they were missing. And yeah, it just makes me think. Right there, I know exactly how long it takes Ridley to stop his fireball breath, so I knew I could jump over it, fast fall, and then land into a jab. And like my timing, it becomes refined because I'm looking at situations differently. So he can side B here, which is the thing that catches me off guard the most, so I'm going to get ready to backwards air dodge. Yep. And then I can drop down and jab him. I got a successful jab there. He usually jump aerials. Jab, jab, jab. I knew I had enough time to spot dodge, turn around, jab because of his animation difference. Here's another one, but I'm too late, so I'm not going to commit, and I should have double rolled back. Like, those are the kind of refinements that allow you to play better, even if you don't have like a lot of moves or a lot of fancy techniques down. Ooh, nice down tilt. Nice. Yeah, so like in general, it doesn't matter how much time you have. I feel like to put into Smash. No matter what time you put into it, I hope that you're having as much fun as possible, and that you kind of know what you're doing and know what you're aiming for. And even if you only had like 30 minutes to play Smash or footsies or whatever, seeing the game for what it is and playing to that maximum experience, I think it's worth trying. Because, I've been to a lot of tournaments too where I'm just like, maybe this will work, or like, let's hope for the best, or whatever. But my whole approach to playing the game.
Just wing it.
Yeah, I was just hoping, like, well, maybe I lost that other tournament because of a bad matchup, or maybe I was tired that day. Like, yeah, there's a lot of maybes, but at the core of it, you are either on a fun and endless search to find more strategies that fit your little gigantic web, kind of like enLIGHTen, or you are practicing really hard how to control your own movements like that and read your opponent. Like, those are the only two things that'll improve your game. Yeah. Stuff like that, right? Nope. And he's gonna side B.
You're using Pro Controller, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to have to think about, like, because maybe I should just test my character and, like, make sure at any new setup I just test my character in.
Yeah,
the controller setup.
Yeah, the controller setup.
Luckily, I play Mario, so I could just do my warm up over there.
Yeah.
Instead of having to, like, do a button check or whatever.
He's gonna side B or up B. And just know.
But I mean, what would I do in that point? It's like, oh, it's a little bit like I have a little bit of input lag. What am I gonna do? Just switch to GameCube controller and then play worse anyways? Because I haven't used a GameCube controller. So
I think when you have,
so I either have to prepare a GameCube controller in advance or just deal with it. I'm actually gonna try to go to another tournament or two.
Yeah, I think you should deal with it. I think a little input lag is not bad. The thing that wins and loses you matches is not the frame tight timing. It's just your general strategy and approach. You either have strategies worked out or you don't, and you're either adapting or you're not.
Yeah. There's of course situations where you're like both right next to each other and you're both putting in the same like command, a jab or whatever, and you're both a 2-frame jab or I don't know if the game has, I think the game has some input delay anyways, regardless.
Yeah. All computer systems do.
Well, yeah.
The only way you can get it away from input delay is if you're directly putting the circuit, like you're directly completing a circuit.
Oh, yeah. It's wired directly.
Yes, yeah. So yeah, reducing extraneous movements.
Well,
hey, go ahead.
So I mean there's delay with hardware, but then there's also delay with software too. I think the game itself has like whatever in like few frames of input delay or whatever.
Yeah.
And what stinks is that if you just play online, like even with best connection, it adds a little bit more input delay.
Yep.
So it's just like not as good practice, but and like you said, you could still practice the decision making.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And even if you don't like come out on top with a lot of these skirmishes with the computers are cheap, right? They have better reactions, but I'm just making sure that what I think and why I hit the buttons is what I wanted.
Yeah, I think when I played yesterday in my tournament matches, except like maybe right like near the very end, I pretty much was able to do what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't make any like major flubs or. Of course, I can remember how I died like at the very end.
Yeah.
I just like ran off platform and nared, and I got hit by whatever from Lucas.
Ooh.
Also, Lucas, my opponent was throwing out the PK freeze like all the time as edge guarding, and it's just like I don't know the full hitbox of it, so I have to like be really cautious because if you get hit by that, I'm just dead. So I have to like play around that way more than I probably need to.
Turnaround jab. Knowing what distances, if he does a certain move, he'll completely whiff. Knowing where you're in danger.
The other thing yesterday I was having trouble with is I think just trying to do like low knockback moves, and then somebody would just immediately like I would start a combo with like a low knockback move, and then they would just throw out a quick move of their own to hit back.
Yeah.
Or just like shield, and then they drop shield, and then I'm stuck in like a little bit of stun, or like shield stun, and then they can just hit back.
Yeah, it's tricky. One of the drills that I like doing is where you both play Wolf, and the point is to get 3 consecutive blaster hits on each other, and you win the round. And all you can do is use blaster and jump around and shield, right? But no grabs, no other attacks or anything else. And it's interesting to know that even if you only have one move and one strategy, basically one option, that there's so much more you can do to play around with it. And it really just depends on when your opponent decides to use blaster and what your openings and opportunities are. So that game is like the footsie's equivalent of a drill in Smash Brothers, and I played that with different people that I were trying to help, and it's really interesting, right? Because you're gonna go into a match, you're gonna be like, either I don't know this or I don't know that, and just like enLIGHTen, you got to take what you know and figure out how to make the most out of it by converting the situation into a positive, or converting the situation to something else that you think would be better for you.
Did you still have my enLIGHTen thing up?
Yeah, let me show you.
Because when you showed the connections, like I just saw a whole bunch of connections, but then you're like, oh, there weren't that many connections, like from this to this. Or is it just like my connections are more vertical than horizontal?
Yeah, that's just based on.
I didn't.
It's just based on my memory. I've seen what mine looks like and what other players looks like when you hit the show all lines, and it's way denser.
So those are just my lines, not like anybody else.
These are just your lines, yeah. And if I
Okay, yeah. So that does look more like it's going from level to level than like. I didn't know if you could get connections from the same what is it, like same level or same tier going all the way across or all the way around.
Yeah, you can't do it on the same level. It always has to go at least one level down.
Oh, okay. Wait, so then what did you mean by like no horizontal connections or like less?
Yeah, so like right here, when I show all of them, I remember what it looks like for other players, and these lines are relatively sparse compared to what I've seen. There's so many more connections to make with each of these puzzles to many other puzzles that you could basically double or triple what you have here.
It's just more lines or more or less lines. Okay.
Yeah, and then if we do this filter here, where we
but how I was approaching the game, I guess what you mean is how I approached the game. I just went more vertical. Instead of horizontal.
Yeah, you drill down into a technique and a strategy rather than explore it in.
Because I think going. But how does the game work? So if you do one, like if I do one puzzle on level 5 and complete that, what does it unlock?
So.
Does it just unlock what it's connected to?
The only way to get a connection The only way
It's just
to
been so long, I forget.
no problem. The only way to get a connection is to be working on a puzzle, and then as you solve it perfectly, like with no redundant moves, you run into another puzzle on your way down. So you don't unlock any connection that you don't personally like move through.
Okay, so that's for connection, but I'm just asking about like unlocking.
More
Like we have a fresh file and you do a puzzle. What does it unlock afterwards?
The only thing that it unlocks is like you can start playing the ones that are close to it. Are you talking about modes or other puzzle levels?
No, just the puzzle. The puzzle.
Yeah,
mode.
yeah. So you can go ring by ring, and if you complete a whole ring, then it unlocks the entire next ring. Or every time you solve a puzzle, it lets you play the ones that are closest to it. So if you unlocked this one, it would let you play.
Oh, do they just appear and they're just like grayed out?
Yeah, they're ghosted.
Oh, okay. Right, so close to it on the map, you mean?
Yeah, physically close to it on the map.
Okay. So I guess I kept going and it was like, well, then I got lucky then because I went up to the one that was. Oh, was it the dot?
This one?
I know I was stuck on one of them. I was like, if I could solve the dot, I can solve all the puzzles.
Yeah.
I guess that is that was the same strategy that you were thinking of.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, definitely.
if I can get to normalize, then I can do.
Let me see if I can encounter rate, date unlocked, float instantly.
Because there's something to the core about the whole like a system that solving that puzzle would reveal.
Ask it again.
I can't remember like what concept it was giving me, but if I could solve that puzzle, it revealed something to me about the whole like
Oh yeah.
5x5 grid of buttons.
Mm-hmm. I think at one point you were like, if
I didn't know if something was possible or not,
yeah, you
and
were
then
seeing if some puzzles were impossible to solve and if some weren't, and then what they looked like. I think you were doing that.
So by solving the dot or whichever one it was, that revealed some more about it, about the whole grid system.
It's interesting. When I filter by notes assigned, this is any puzzle you have written 6 to 9 notes on, and the dot is one of them.
Oh yeah, the dot, yeah.
And then this is 5 to 9, 4 to 9, 3 notes, 2 notes, 1 note, and then all the rest. So essentially, these puzzles are the ones that you studied the most, you had the most thoughts on, right here. And then if I activate show all lines, and then I also do the notice sign like this, it just shows like the puzzles that you had the hardest time on, or that you studied the most, were kind of one-offs. They didn't connect to each other. Let's see if I do this, and then show all lines. So yeah. So if you consider these to be your most seen and most
But
studied,
then, wait, this is lines, just any lines from those most notes taken puzzles?
If you see a puzzle on
Okay.
the screen and there's a line that can be drawn, it draws it. So this kind of gets you a visual sense of how where your choke points are with your strategy. Like if all these outer ones have straight lines to just a few deep inner ones, and then that inner one, like right here, doesn't have a lot of connections from it, let's say, then you can tell like, oh, you flow from these really hard ones to this one, but this one doesn't flow to the rest of your knowledge. Like you can kind of see how the shape of your lines here create more of like a tree with branches, like a trunk with a couple of one-off shoots, instead of like a web where it's circular and everything's kind of talking to each other. And since
What's the one up in the corner?
top like this?
So that 15 layer one was all filled in.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, then the other one was the 14.
Yeah, 14, 13, 12, 11. Yeah, this game itself has so much data and so many ways, tools to kind of visualize it. I don't know what half of it means. I just like thinking about it and exploring. But in your case, like I think it's pretty clear that we can see one of your go-to strategies is to identify something good, hone in on it, and then modify as needed. And there are pros and cons to that, but I think that's cool to realize.
Right, so of the Smash strategies, it was what was the first one you said? That was just kind of like
yeah, just playing how you feel basically. So single player games all about like you and how you want to play, and a lot of players approach the multiplayer game just doing whatever they want and hoping for the best. Pretty much blind
that's
to the
okay. So that just kind of sounds like autopilot.
yeah, yeah. It's kind of well, you'd be surprised at how many
or
players
winging it.
like you'd be
Oh wait,
surprised.
did you also talk about like playing optimally, or was that this next one?
Like
Finding every optimal.
You can play this first one and refine it. Like everybody's refining what they do over time. No one is like absolutely static. But what this first group,
Oh, okay, yeah. So you're refining your own stuff.
And the first group has a set of expectations that they had going into the game, and instead of modifying their expectations, they're just like, no, I'm gonna do this. Like I'm gonna play Marth. I'm gonna do this thing, and I'm gonna keep practicing it until I get it. Sometimes you see in other fighting games, players learn a hard combo, and then all they want to do is that one combo over and over and over. It's kind of a similar idea. The strategy and the situation may not be good for that combo, and they're just going to do it over and over no matter what, because that's just how they want to play. And while that may be fun, that's not very effective.
Okay. And then I was trying to review what you said earlier. So then the other two were
exploring the strategy,
figuring out like figuring out all the strategies of all the different situations.
Mm-hmm.
And then what was the third one again?
And then the third one is just basically figuring out your opponent.
Oh yeah, okay. Playing your opponent. Yeah, I know the one of the most important things is to not look at your character, look at your opponent's character.
Yeah, you basically look at the middle point in between both of you and your opponent, and then that you use your peripheral vision and stuff to see what they're up to. Where's my camera? Yeah, if you ever wanted to jump online and try some of those wolf drills that I talked about, yeah, that would be cool.
Well, here you're on the game now, right? I'll just try it.
Cool. So I'll make a room.
Oh yeah, arenas.
Yeah, there's a Wolf version and a Captain Falcon version. We'll start with the Wolf version.
Wait, is that with Falcon Punch?
Yeah, the Falcon Punch one was part of it. How do I even play this game?
I think the laser one is. It would be better just for practice in general too, because wolf lasers are actually a thing you encounter.
Yeah, good idea.
At a tournament, not Falcon Punches.
Do you want to set up the arena?
Oh.
I don't know if my settings are bad. I've never really figured out how to do this.
I mean, you just do like 1-1. I'll just set it to stamina, and then you can only use blaster.
Just do 3 stock.
Just 3 stock.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh wait, I did public. Oh, I'm on. Okay, I was on the wrong menu. Skill.
We should be Switch friends.
My God.
Oh, okay. Oh, wait, choice. Oh, yeah, okay. Is that it? Oh, that is it. Okay. Why? Okay, that's weird. It's like I go through all the settings, right? And then password is not in the settings. It's just a toggle button for whether or not you want to use a password. All right, you can just go to join friend arena.
Cool. Hey. Oop. Join. Nice.
Step into the ring.
Okay, let's go Wolf.
Oh, and then oh, you have to select a stage. What stage is it that you like?
Any FD stage.
Oh, FD stage
Yeah.
to make it more
Yeah, it's just simpler. It's
um
no platforms.
make it more footsies like.
Yeah. Platforms are a whole other strategy part of Smash, and oftentimes working with them specifically is best. I usually take them out of my training, unless I'm training specifically for a platform.
Wait, are we the same color?
Yeah, let me...
I don't want to. Let me just choose a different color.
Okay, all good.
I do like just being default colors usually. Better to have like different colors than one person grayed out. So what, shield and laser only?
Yeah, you can move around, shield, and laser. 1, 2. You don't want 3 in a row. Then it resets if you get a hit, so now you're on 1. Two. So that would be round 1 for you.
Whoops. Trying to B reverse.
Yeah.
Or-
1, 2. Uh-huh. One, 2.
Getting used to that wolf runs. He doesn't. He has like no slide. And the lasers don't. They don't clash.
Nope. One. Oop, you got one. Ah, 3.
Not ride the wall as much as I thought it would. Maybe that's because it's an Omega form
Yeah.
versus Battlefield.
Let's try again.
Looks like he drops.
It looks like I dropped?
Yeah.
Aw. Well, let me... It'll show me in a second. But yeah, let me jump back in. Communication error. Join arena.
Step into the ring. Ready?
Yeah, so as you're playing this, you know, there's a dialogue running in your head, and that's one of the most important things to listen to.
3, 2, 1, go!
Yeah, am I one? Ooh, we got one.
I almost think this would be like a better exercise if they flanked.
2. 3. Wow, lag is real.
Yeah, it's a little bit laggier this time for some reason.
Oh wait, hold on.
I am only on Wi-Fi.
Yeah,
so-
I think I unplugged my wired, so that explains a lot. But no matter, this still works. Ooh.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, spot dodge was good there. Huh?
Oh, his recovery is not very good.
Yeah.
Not the up B, anyways. I think side B goes. Yeah, side B is.
Preferred. Yeah.
Or like that. That's kind of risky.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
I think if you just did side B, you get back.
yeah. So so yeah, like one of the things that you should think in this exercise is like, well, it's hard when the opponent is using the same move I'm doing and has the same spatial advantage, right? Like we're trying to get each other in the same range, and it's difficult because when one fires, the other can also fire. So then
Yeah, we could just keep firing at the same time.
yeah.
And we'd never.
So
Neither of us would win.
So while you can get some momentum, it's hard to do much with it. So then now you get to pick one ground move. You pick one ground move. I pick one ground move. That's an A, and then you can. It's that one move plus blaster, but only the blaster hits count, right? So what's your move?
I don't know what combo's best. If anything comes.
Most things won't combo.
Probably like, I don't know, maybe like side tilt, knock you off stage.
Side tilt? Okay, and I'll pick up tilt. And then resume.
Oh, that's faster. Well, I don't know. It might be similar. Alright.
Oop. Supposed to dashing up tilt. And the whole matchup has changed. Like now our movement patterns are different because we have one move in mind, right? And we're looking for one move that won't even combo, but it's gonna help. Ah, you didn't roll. That's right, you don't like rolling.
I've been rolling.
Yeah.
I know I rolled like one time right after you said it, but
1, 2, 3.
oh my god. Okay, there I would want to grab. Oh, that's not gonna. You're always gonna recover low, so I have to like jump off stage and laser you from behind.
Yep.
No.
Not that I would recommend it. But yeah, you're trying to use your forward tilt to help you get blasters. Like that's the whole name of the game. If it doesn't, oop, I can't do that. Ah, my blaster almost came out.
Oh, I got one. Maybe for your scoring, it should be if you get a blaster, your next blaster after the move. If you land it, then you get 2 points.
Yeah, the whole.
Ooh, except I died. But does that matter for this?
Yeah, you need to stay alive. We never want to practice sacrificing ourselves like that. But yeah, you can see the difference when you're like, oh, the name of the game is still to land this thingy, but how does another move help or hurt using it? And you know, landing the blaster is still just 1 point, so that's supposed to affect your sort of evaluation. You're like, is it really worth getting him at really high damage so my forward tilt doesn't like keep him on the stage? Or like, is this really a good time to use up tilt? And that kind of stuff.
3, 2, 1, go!
Oh, another thing I wanted to like figure out better is what to do. Like very first thing in the game, like very first action, what to go for. I guess that's just like rock paper scissors right off the bat.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah, you're usually far
Or
enough
if you're
away.
if you're both on a platform, what would you do?
I mean,
Like
so
you're playing on
if
if you're playing on Battlefield or
if you go
something.
into a match and you don't have a good matchup game plan, then your first thing needs to do is play safer and look at what your opponent's doing. So almost nothing you should do should be that aggressive. You can move around.
Like I've realized, if I'm starting on a platform and I just want to get off, I could just drop down. Playing with Mario, I could drop down Nair and then fast fall to the ground, and that's a little bit faster than just dropping through the platform. Because, you like cancel the little tumble animation.
Yeah, there's usually
So
nothing.
that I didn't realize. Like, you could just do that.
2. Ah, win. Face the right direction.
Oops.
Cool. Ah, why is he flipping around backwards? Stop. Oh, hey, this is oh well.
Yeah, it doesn't really do anything. But that's something I realized I could do with Mario instead of trying to do wave bounce, which is probably gonna make me miss input and put out a cape. I could just do a reverse rush like that, and then do that to retreat a fireball.
No, missing.
Of course, the fireball works better than the laser, which is I'm just shooting way up there.
Yeah. Man, even shield doesn't come out fast enough. 1, 2. Man. Man, that buffer. It is not working out. Yeah, that's the idea. And when you realize how differently you play just by having one move in mind and one move to support it, it really helps you simplify your game plan, because you need to play in a way that allows you to look at your opponent and figure out what they're doing. And a lot of times that involves limiting what you're going for so that you can keep your eyes open. And, you know, properly evaluating, is this the right thing to do? Like this, how many times did this strategy get beaten? Like, is it worth going for this even if I can land it? Like, those are the questions that you start to evaluate on the fly. While most people are just thinking, I just want to get my next hit. You know, keep hitting them. Eventually they'll be at high enough damage and then I'll get a KO. But that's really incredibly inefficient and it doesn't work. But yeah, so that's like the core.
Yeah, it's hard to evaluate that mid combo sometimes. Like, if a certain move will do just barely not enough knockback, and then they could counter hit with something.
There's always a level that you know for sure you're safe. There's always a level that's on the gray area between maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Smarter players don't venture forth into the gray area. That's all there is to it. Doesn't matter if it's 6 hits into a combo or 2, stay safe. And then get ready for what your opponent's going to do. Get a better and better idea of what your opponent's going to do, and you can get your next opportunity. So yeah, like you could pick up any character, and even if you don't know the character like too well, nothing stops you from picking a single attack. You know, you still shield properly, you still roll when you think it's good, and you still jump around, but nothing stops you from honing in yourself to go, hey, I'm just going to use one attack. I'm not going to let him know which one it is. As much as possible, I'll keep that a secret, and that's going to help me fight back even though I don't know a lot about this character. And that's when you're truly playing that third style, where you're like, it doesn't matter who I am, it just really matters what my opponent's going to do. Good players have
Gotcha.
both of
Yeah,
the
good.
styles.
The good players playing the players.
Yeah, they have both. If they find an opportunity where they can just, show off their deep knowledge of the strategy, yeah.
Yeah, or match out the combo.
Yeah. And, because there are some strategies where it's like, I know this character, your character, there's nothing they can do to hit me from this position, therefore, I'm going to go for this. If the other opponent doesn't realize that the first player is completely safe, then they could fall for that trap over and over. So the player who has a wide strategy space quickly tries to find which traps will work on his opponent and just run those over and over and over. The person playing the other player quickly tries to get his opponent into a conversation so that they can predict what they're going to do and capitalize on it. The best players do both simultaneously. The conversation that they have is their strategy space, right? And then when they realize their opponent's not falling for something, they change what their language is. They change their strategy, but it's still very much keeping track of what their opponent is doing.
One, go!
Whoops.
It's far.
I buffered an air dodge.
Yeah, it's really hard on this connection, but that's okay.
Well, I don't know if that was the connection or I just buffered the air dodge, so it just came out. Online's weird because it'll like buffer stuff in advance or something.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that my shield did not come out like
yeah.
for a while.
So I knew the distance was safe there. Man, basic reactions are not working.
Does the bayonet hit count?
Just one.
So like if I hit you with the gun but not the
Just
laser.
one. It's just, yeah.
Well,
just,
does it count as one?
yeah, just one. If you get any
Oh,
hit
okay.
using your blaster, it's just one, even if it hits
Oh no,
twice.
I think we disconnect.
That's fine. I think we did what we had to do when we came here.
Yeah, you got the point.
So yeah, just I think that knowing this makes the game more fun. Hopefully, knowing that you play much looser and more free and creatively once you kind of limit what you're going for and kind of look actively. All those are cool things to realize. But yeah, I appreciate you taking the time.
I was gonna say, yeah, you're welcome. I was gonna say, all right, now go into the tournament mode and then play like with only 2 moves and see how far I get.
I think just playing CPUs
For the 2 moves.
achieves that effect. Yeah, you don't need a. When you finally get a chance to play people, you should take it seriously because people are the whole point, and it's rare enough to get their attention. But yeah, that's why I drill on the computers. Not because the computers are good, it's because I'm trying to control myself. And if I find myself doing the same thing over and over in a computer, I'm going to do the same thing over and over against a player too. So like being aware, switching up my strategies consciously, all those are the things that I like practicing on my own. And no matter how good you are at the game, playing the other player will lose if they have a better strategy space and they're playing you. I recently played a game of Rivals of Ether, and I don't really know how to play that game. I just know it's close enough to Smash. So while my neutral was great and I was getting a lot of hits, I didn't know how to combo. I didn't know how to finish off my opponent except for one setup. And no matter how many encounters I won, I still lost because when he got his hits, they were longer combos, and he knew how to edge guard, and I barely even knew how to recover, and that's just how it goes, right? So even if you're 100% like, I'm gonna play you, if you don't know how to play, there's limits. So I feel like a mix between those two styles is what is the most fun and the strongest.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So the last thing I'll show is screen, change windows. This. I'll just move this over. Yeah. So the last thing I'll show is part of the final section for the footsies exercise was taking basically everything that I just said, a lot of what I just explained, and finding quotes from really strong fighting game players who are saying the same exact thing, right? To realize that we're all playing the same game, we're all have the same brain, basically the same basic capacity to improve, and yet it's thinking in these ways is what makes the best player strong. Everything from branches to strategy spreads to the way they think about counter strats to doing a ton of work to find the most fringe possibilities. They do that. They talk about themselves labbing for hours just to find one combo and one matchup and one whatever. They talk about learning a lot. They talk about what it means to play footsies and why it's about expectations and player play style and how you test your opponents in a certain way in order to come out on top, what conditioning is and how to do it. Like, we're all speaking the same language, and it's really cool when you start hearing the same exact sort of phrases and concepts come up over and over and over. And how frame data is important. Like, I know just watching the animations in Smash, I know I can like line up two sets of animations to know whether or not I have time to hit a move or not hit a move. That's pretty much what Daily Challenge 5 was all about. Can you hold two pieces of information in your head and overlap them in a way that allows you to make the best decision from the result of those things? And a lot of Smash players don't do that at all. They do the same punish no matter what, and it's usually their fastest punish, but it's not their most effective punish. It's because they don't know how much time they have.
Oh wait, sorry, say that again.
Oh, I was just saying, people who don't know how much time they have to punish will usually freak out and go for something fast and of low effect.
Oh, I see. Instead of just like
Yeah.
maybe not doing anything
Or like,
and just not taking the risk.
you know when like people smash against your shield, a lot of people like grab or do an aerial attack from that defensive position. But there's a lot of smash attacks in the game where if you shield it, you can drop your shield and smash him back. And there's so many situations where I see like you could have won the match. You could have won the match. You had plenty of time, but they're like, freak out, grab, back throw, and it doesn't KO.
Oh, just okay. They do like the quickest option
Yeah.
instead of the best one.
And that's because in their mind they're kind of hard set on that. Okay, respond with something quick.
Just gotta get some punish.
something. Yep.
Got it.
So while the game is,
I know.
Yeah, go ahead.
I know one of the bad habits is like you do a really laggy move and then you immediately do a defensive option.
Yeah, like spot dodge them. They're just standing there, and you're like, man. Yep, it's hard. So though the game is really complex, simplifying it makes it more fun, more playable, and more understandable. So let me stop this stream. Stop it.